All right. Get ready for a deep dive into a real head-scratcher. You guys sent us some pretty intriguing articles about Silvergate Bank and their story. It's not your typical bank going bust. This is about crypto shadowy regulations and the big question, did Silvergate self-destruct or were they taken down?
Yeah, you know what I think is so captivating about this whole thing is how Silvergate decided to voluntarily liquidate. It's really unusual in the world of bank closures.
Yeah.
Usually regulators have to step in, but Silvergate chose a different path, and I think to understand why that move was so unexpected, we got to kind of rewind a little bit and look at how Silvergate got involved in the crypto space in the first place.
Okay, so back to the beginning then. So Silvergate wasn't just dipping their toes in the crypto pool. They were practically doing cannonballs.
Exactly. They were all in on this, and it wasn't by accident or anything.
Yeah.
Silvergate saw a strategic opportunity to bridge traditional finance with the 247 nature of the crypto market. Think about it, like, while regular banks were closed on the weekends, crypto trading continued, right? It's a global market, never stops. So there was this constant need for financial flow, and that's where Silvergate Exchange Network, SEN, comes in.
Okay, so SEN was their, claim to fame in a way.
Yeah, you could say that.
Give us the, techie breakdown, but in plain English for
Right.
those of us who, aren't programmers or something.
Sure. So basically imagine a system that could connect crypto exchanges and businesses and allow them to move funds between each other instantaneously, any day, anytime.
Mm-hmm.
No more waiting for the banks to open on Monday morning, right? This was huge, especially for institutional investors who deal with massive sums of money. So this constant accessibility through SCN turned Silvergate into the go-to bank for the entire crypto world.
Wow, sounds like they hit a gold mine, or should I say a Bitcoin mine.
Right.
But we all know high rewards often come with high risks,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. And by 2021, a staggering 82% of Silvergate's deposits were from crypto companies. So they were deeply embedded in this world. And, as we know, the crypto world can be very volatile, which brings us to the FTX earthquake of 2022.
FTX, yeah, the event that sent chills down everyone's spines. I think especially anyone who had any connection to them at all.
For sure. And Silvergate's close ties to FTX made them incredibly vulnerable when FTX crumbled amidst those allegations of fraud. It was like a shockwave rippling through the entire crypto space. People started questioning Silvergate's stability, like how exposed were they to this massive collapse?
But I'm guessing this is when the regulators started knocking on the door a little bit more forcefully.
Yeah.
What kind of scrutiny were they under?
Oh, it wasn't just a friendly check-in, regulators including heavy hitters like the Federal Reserve, the FDIC, the OCC, they were all circling.
Oh, wow.
But what's interesting is that alongside the, very public warnings about the risk of crypto, there were these whispers of something else going on, what some people were calling shadow regulation.
Shadow regulation. Okay, now you're going to have to explain that one because that sounds like something out of a spy thriller.
I know, right? It sounds very mysterious. But basically, it's this gray area of regulatory action. Not quite a formal rule, but more of an unspoken directive. So, according to sources, Silvergate was told by regulators to cap crypto-related deposits at 15%.
Really?
Yeah, and there was no official document, no public announcement or anything, just this is how it is now.
Wow, talk about pressure.
Yeah.
So they're already reeling from the FTX fallout. They're dealing with this shadow regulation happening.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't fully explain why they chose to voluntarily liquidate. Were they really on the brink of collapse or was there something else going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. And to be honest, the answer is far from clear-cut. Some people say they saw the writing on the wall, with the mounting regulatory scrutiny, with the crypto market still in turmoil. After FTX, they perhaps decided to cut their losses and try to salvage what they could.
A strategic retreat before things got even worse.
Yeah, precisely. But then there's the other side of the coin, right? Could this have been a way to sidestep even more government intervention? A way to retain some control over the situation because...
Just like they were playing 4D chess with the regulators or something.
Right, trying to stay one step ahead.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating because it's full of these twists and turns, and we have to remember a typical government takeover of a bank, it can be messy.
Yeah.
Especially for depositors. It can trigger panic, erode trust, even spark a run on the bank.
Like a financial contagion almost,
Yeah.
just spreading uncertainty throughout the entire system.
Exactly. And by voluntarily liquidating Silvergate, could potentially control the narrative a little bit,
Right.
protect its depositors, maybe even salvage some of its reputation. I mean, it was a high-risk gamble for sure, but one they clearly thought was worth taking.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So Silvergate shuts down. But this isn't where the story ends, right?
Yeah.
Shortly after we saw the collapse of Signature Bank and Silicon Valley Bank,
Yeah.
both of which also had some links to the crypto world. So were these just isolated incidents, or could there be a bigger picture connection back to Silvergate?
Right. That's the question that's been swirling around ever since. And some people, particularly those who are, very much into the crypto community, they see the downfall of these banks as more than just a coincidence.
Okay.
They point to what they call a coordinated effort by, powers that be to kind of cut off crypto's oxygen supply, so to speak, by targeting these institutions that are willing to work with crypto companies.
So instead of like going after crypto directly, they're kind of like applying pressure through the banking system.
Right. It's like squeezing the lifeline. And it's certainly a theory worth considering. I mean, think back to Operation Chokepoint, that initiative during the Obama administration that sought to curb certain industries' access to banking services. Some people see this as like a bit of a repeat of that strategy, just, now applied to the world of crypto.
But wouldn't that be incredibly difficult to prove? Like, how would you even begin to substantiate that?
There's a lot of speculation out there, and actually proving a coordinated campaign like that is a really high bar.
Right.
Others argue that, these bank collapses were simply the result of poor risk management,
Yeah.
overexposure to a volatile sector, and perhaps even just a touch of, panic in the markets.
Yeah. It's like trying to untangle a giant knot almost.
Yeah.
There are all these threads: regulatory pressure, market volatility, internal decisions at the bank, and it's really hard to tell which one ultimately caused the whole thing to unravel.
Right. And that's what makes this whole story so compelling. I think it's like this tangled web of interconnected events, each one influencing the next. And it just reminds us that we're in uncharted territory here. The old rule book might not apply anymore.
So where does this leave us then? What are like the key takeaways from the Silvergate saga, especially for someone who, is just trying to understand the future of finance in general?
Well, I think Silvergate's story really highlights the complex interplay between innovation regulation and, this age-old battle for control in the financial world.
Yeah.
Cryptocurrency really challenged the status quo, and I think we're seeing traditional power structures grappling with how to respond to that.
Yeah, it's like watching a high-stakes poker game unfold in real time, with billions of dollars in the future of finance hanging in the balance.
Exactly. And remember, this game isn't over. It's just getting started.
It's wild, right? It's like we're watching the Wild West of finance unfold right before our eyes. But instead of saloons and six-shooters, we have blockchain and decentralized ledgers.
Right. And just like the Wild West, there's this sense of excitement, this like limitless potential, but also this, healthy dose of risk and uncertainty. I mean, Silvergate, whether they meant to or not, really became a pioneer in this new frontier in their story. It's definitely a cautionary tale, but it's also a glimpse into what might be possible in the future.
Yeah, for sure. So let's bring it back down to earth for a second.
Yeah.
What does this all actually mean for like our listener?
Yeah.
Let's say someone is listening who's interested in crypto or just wants to like understand where the world of finance is headed. What are like the big takeaways from Silvergate's rise and fall?
I think the biggest takeaway, honestly, is that the financial landscape is changing, and it's changing fast. I mean, Silvergate's bet on crypto, it was a gamble for sure, and in many ways they were ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
But being early to the party doesn't guarantee success, right?
Especially when the rules of the game are still being written or, in some cases whispered in the shadows like we were talking about.
Right, exactly. The Silvergate saga really exposes this friction point that exists between innovation and regulation. Crypto, with its decentralized nature, it challenges the very foundation of how we think about traditional finance. So it's no surprise that these established institutions, these power players, are kind of grappling with how to incorporate it, or even if they should at all.
So it's less about picking sides like crypto versus traditional finance and more about understanding this like dynamic tension that's shaping the future of how we even think about and interact with money.
Exactly. And I think Silvergate's story, it should encourage all of us to kind of ask ourselves, what role do we want to play in this evolving landscape? Are we comfortable with the current financial systems, or do we embrace the potential of decentralized finance, or do we just observe from the sidelines and kind of wait to see how it all plays out?
Those are some pretty thought-provoking questions, I'd say. So to kind of wrap things up today, it seems like Silvergate's story is less about finding like a definitive answer to this whole thing and more about like embracing the complexities of this like new financial frontier that we're all entering into.
100%. The lines between technology finance and, even politics, they're becoming increasingly blurred. Silvergate's rise and fall serve as a stark reminder. I think that we're living in a time of really unprecedented financial evolution, and the decisions that are being made today by individuals, by institutions, by governments are going to shape the financial landscape for years to come. So stay informed, stay curious, and most importantly, keep asking questions.
Yes, because as we've learned from this deep dive, the world of finance, especially the crypto in the mix, is anything but boring.